Welcome to Ghostly.
Is the demon house possession story real?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week, except we're taking December off, so sorry.
We have a awesome episode, though,
yeah, we do.
Send you off on.
In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca, and sometimes guest, gives evidence proving that the story is real, and my job is to get beaten up by everybody that comes on the show. And then try to prove them wrong and have you guys tell me that I'm wrong. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And we're your host. I'm Pat.
I'm Rebecca.
And we have with us the multi-talented David Vox Mullen. He's a stand-up comedian. He's an improv comedian. He's a singer, songwriter, movies. What have you written a book yet or something?
I've considered it.
Oh, okay.
So that might be something that comes down the road too.
But Pat, you're missing the most important job.
Yeah, he is an exorcist too, or has performed some exorcisms. Let's just say that.
Yes, I cannot, in good conscience, call myself an exorcist.
I can call you that.
You can, because I am not sanctioned through the Catholic Church, which is required to be an exorcist. The alternative would be like the Protestant version, which would be like somebody who does deliverance sessions or whatever.
Or a demonologist.
Or a demonologist. Yeah. Well, a demonologist by the term would be somebody who just studies
demons.
But the interesting thing is I've actually found that there's pros and cons in both Catholic rites and Protestant deliverance. So I've actually developed so this is interesting. I'm actually going to announce my system here on your show.
Vox system.
It's not the Vox system. It's a term that I put together. It's called exoliberance.
Ooh.
And so it takes elements of the Catholic exorcism rites, and it's also a part of the Protestant deliverance. It's all biblically based
to liberate the
but
ghost.
yeah so it's
or the possession or the demon.
It's literally an exorcism deliverance.
Okay.
and it's
freedom.
Just the setting free.
Yes,
setting
of,
free
of the whole process of where, and I think I've been on the show in the past and we've discussed certain things, but as I continue to learn through my walk and in my ministry of doing it, it's I've learned to evolve the process. I used to be very black and white, Jesus taught the disciples do it this way, and you just say the name Jesus and get it done.
That was actually the first time that we interviewed you. Yeah. You were very much like that.
And there is very much a part of that. But what I have learned in my travels is that while that does solve the issue at hand, there's often an underlying reason why a person may be oppressed or possessed.
Yeah.
And, to be honest, I have to humble myself a bit and say that I was a little anti-Catholic style for many years. Come to find out after reading, Father Amorth's book and following Father Martins and his Father Carlos Martins, who is famously kind of like the new Gabriel
he's
Amorth
great.
now. Yeah.
He's great.
I've learned to kind of respect a little bit more of what the Catholics were actually trying to do with their exorcism rituals. And so I do think there's a little more to it's almost, in a weird way, there's almost a little bit of psychotherapy being involved, kind of like identifying what caused the issue, as opposed to, growing up in the Protestant church, it's always like, someone's possessed or oppressed, get that demon, let's knock him out, get him out, whatever. But no real attention, in my experience, has ever been paid to why is this happening to this individual? What did they do
a lot of sense,
that opened the door, so to speak?
Because first of all, I don't believe, obviously, but even if I did, I would say that there still needs to be some kind of therapy with that too. I mean, it's definitely like what allowed this to happen then? What allowed this being or this thing to possess you?
Well, and the majority of the time, especially on the Catholic side of things, they'll be the first to tell you 99% of the time they're looking to disprove possession, because it's mostly not the case, and for all the good things that entertainment has done to shine the light on the fact that there is a need for exorcism and especially in the Catholic Church, there's also been a lot of damage that's been done to society because of films like The Exorcist and Emily Rose and all the other stuff that everybody loves. And it's entertaining, sure, but like it does create now people have kind of a guidebook of how to be fake. So it does become,
we might get to this guidebook today.
No, there you go.
Well, and just to put that out there for listeners, I believe this was back like our first full October when we did a themed month, and it was all on exorcism. So if you want to go back, 2019, that would have been maybe a month of exorcisms.
That was probably before the pandemic.
I think so. Yeah, like just before, because you came over. You actually came in to record.
I was allowed to leave my house.
You were allowed to be out. But we did a whole interview with you just about your experiences. So
if they go back and listen to that, then they'll hear how I've changed a lot of my positions.
Yeah, and that's great. Super Evolution's great.
No, I agree.
So we're going to be talking about what is known as the Demon House of Gary, Indiana. It's known that because of Zach
Isn't
Baggins.
Every house in Gary, Indiana considered a demon house?
Maybe.
We might be talking about that.
We might talk about that too. But Gary actually, in this particular area, was semi-quiet at one point. And it was shattered in 2011, though, when the Amen family became the unwilling stars of a real-life horror show. Their home, transformed into a hellish abyss, was the epicenter of a demonic possession that would captivate the nation in 2014. I remember this. I remember this talking about, And I don't know. I remember it. I am always been interested in anything with possessions and exorcisms and stuff like that. Even, going back to when I was in high school, I think I've talked about that too before. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to have you on to hear your thoughts on this. There were two movies that were made about this particular possession. One of them is on Netflix right now called The Deliverance. The other one is made by this charlatan, Zach Baggins.
Tell us how you really feel, Patrick.
He's a little douchey. Anyways, Zach Baggins, and you could see that on Amazon Prime. It's called The Demon House of Gary, Indiana. So that's where we get the name of this.
We watched both. Super interesting, but I think the Demon House does give a nice overview of the real story, the original story. Then it gets into Zach's stuff and what happened to him in the house.
Hey, whatever. Zach knows how to make money.
He knows
he does,
how to make it
He's
look good.
really good at it.
Yeah,
He's really
but
good at it.
like Deliverance is a great movie, but they definitely made a lot of changes. Yeah, so if you also want to see something that goes over,
that always tends to happen with those. Like, and I think I probably mentioned this when I was here last. Like, I love when movies try to tackle demon possession or exorcism, but they almost never get it right. They never get it right. And so like, there's always, even when I watched The Deliverance, I was on a plane. I watched it on a plane, which is kind of weird because if you think about, like, you're like right next to people and they had to have been looking at, like, what the heck is this guy looking at? Like, this is crazy stuff. But it
was pretty good though.
I enjoyed the core of the film, coming from my perspective as somebody who does believe that's something that can happen, and
then Glenn Close, and you're like, oh
yeah.
Okay, and Omar Epps. All right,
sounds
good.
Hey, and Glenn Close in a role that I felt was just as intense as Fatal Attraction.
Yeah,
we totally compared it to that.
I think it was nice to see her.
I really thought she was going to kill a rabbit at some point.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, seriously, since Fatal Attraction, she's on a bunch of other things. And, not to disparage Glenn Close, I think she's a great actor. But, like, this to me felt like, wow, we're really getting to see her, like, dig into something deep, which I thought was really cool. So just as a fan of entertainment, I enjoyed it.
And, it's one of those kind of things where you watch somebody and you're like, man, I really could not see them playing that character. And she did it excellent. She did a great job.
And you would probably know more than I would because you watched the other thing and you researched it. But, like, as far as her character goes, I was shocked at how dark and deep that character's past was. Was that any remotely true, or is that just creative?
I should
Not
say
really.
I don't really know.
Okay.
She was in the demon house of
we'll say the mother is lived there with them and went through it all with them. So that part is true. Okay. I guess we'll say
like
that.
that's it though.
I don't know.
I get
it. How much?
I mean, she was pretty straightforward and everything.
Yeah,
so.
they seemed. Yeah.
Well, like after reading multiple books by Father Gabriel Amorth and then watching that Russell Crowe movie, I was like, none of this is from his books.
Right.
Except the fact that he swears once in a while. Like, okay, yeah, they got that part right, but everything else was like not.
It was
real.
A good movie, though.
Yeah. It was interesting.
It was.
It was good until the end. In my opinion,
the end was a little weird. I agree. Hey, should we take care of a little bit of business?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the part where we would usually do shout outs on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We always love those 5-star reviews, but we will read any and all reviews that we receive. And the second way is to become a member on Patreon. You just need to go to ghostlypodcast.com, click on Patreon in the menu bar. We have a lot of different tiers to choose from. Unfortunately, we have no shout outs this episode.
I know. But definitely join us on Patreon if you want ad-free episodes.
Yes.
Get them early, all that fun stuff. And that is where you can find all of that.
And we're working on increasing the tiers to give you even more value for your dollar.
We're open to your ideas for that, definitely. All right, listener mail. We do not have listener mail today, but we always want to hear your stories. So you can send us a story. You can email us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our favorite ways is to actually get letters in the mail.
Yes.
So we have a P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134. You're not going to remember any of that. Just go to the footer at ghostlypodcast.com and it's there.
Yeah, or DSM.
Or just hit the back button. Like 15 seconds.
There you go.
There you go.
Or you can DM us on any of the socials out there. We're on there.
Yeah.
All right. We do have one more thing we got to get to.
Oh, no.
Your favorite thing.
No, we don't need to do that.
We, of course, have
but
to get...
Vox is here, so we shouldn't do it.
We need to do the polls.
I feel like it has to happen now.
It totally has to happen now. In our last episode, we talked about Franklin Castle.
Yeah, have you ever heard of Franklin Castle?
No, but I know a guy named Frank Castle, so that's
wow.
This is in Cleveland.
It's in Ohio City, Cleveland,
which I feel like is like must be a neighborhood in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it really does look like a castle. It's kind of crazy.
And it sold the last time for like $250,000. And that surprised me because they put millions of dollars in renovating this particular place.
The person who did was it someone's husband, Judy Garland's fifth husband.
Yeah,
bought it and renovated it. Anyways, it's a good episode. Check it out. And the poll results were yes, 48%, no, 52%.
Oh, I squeaked by on that one.
Yes, you did.
The overall rating, people can give ratings as we're going to do in this episode. We can give 0 to 10, so I'll probably be giving a lot of zeros today. But anyways, this one was 3.9. They have to start at 1. So on the lower side. Yeah. That makes sense. Absolutely. So do you have a story for us? I do have a story. Okay. All right.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
I'm not sure how to talk about what happened last night. Before last night, everything was small, odd, wet footprints, a shadowing figure that I saw while I was half asleep, the basement door creaking open if we didn't keep it locked. I could write those things off as nothing. But after what we all witnessed last night, I don't know if I can ignore it all anymore. We'd invited some family friends to come and stay with us for the weekend. My daughter was excited because our friends have a daughter her age, so they were going to get to have a sleepover in her room. Early in the morning, at 2 a.m., I heard something. I realized pretty quickly that it sounded like screaming coming from the girls' room. I assumed that it was my daughter having a nightmare. Those have been happening more lately. But as I opened the door, I yelled for my mother to come, and with her came our friends as well. And what we saw was nothing any of us had ever seen before. My daughter was levitating off of her bed in the air with nothing holding her, and her friend was screaming at the sight. At this point, my mother started to pray, and instinctively we all joined in on this prayer over and over and over again. We prayed until slowly she started to return to her bed and woke up. She looked confused and stared at each of us, wondering why we were in her room and why her friend was looking at her with terror in her eyes. I didn't want to scare her, so I just told her that she had had a bad dream and we were all worried about her and we're glad to see that she was okay. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I called a friend who was a clairvoyant, and she came over and said that we have demons in our house and that we should just leave. But that's hard to do without any money. I guess we'll just have to hope that we can pray enough that it will leave us alone.
All right. So I actually know, because I know both ends of this story, that this is based on some facts.
Yes.
Some loose facts, I will say, because I'm going to argue a lot of these exact things. So, yeah, that was pretty creepy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that supposedly happened in the house. So we'll talk more about it as we go. But.
Yeah, there was a levitation. There was a boy running like across the walls and stuff like that.
You're giving the best parts away.
Well, but they're going to have to listen to the history for the rest of it.
All right.
All right, we'll be right back.
Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Facts. He presents it all to you. Facts.
All right, so we're back, and we're going to get to the pet facts.
Pet facts.
Have you ever heard our music for that?
I would lie and say yes, but then you would know I was lying.
Yeah, Mondo made us music, and it's just it's really funny to me.
It's the catchiest song ever.
Yeah, it is, definitely. All right, so my perspective of Gary, Indiana, is from Chicago's side. You know, that's how I see everything.
Which is mine too.
Yeah. But Chicago wouldn't be the city that it is today without a Gary, Indiana, because, they did all the steel mills and stuff like that. In fact, the whole northwest corner of Indiana had a huge population boom because of the steel mills.
Yep.
Many people who lived in the area thrived because of the steel mills. It was a lucrative field for many years, especially for those that were willing to work super hard. It was not easy work at all. And most of those people were not college educated as well.
Do you ever work in the steel mills there, Vox?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about. My when I was younger, my stepfather's family lived east side Chicago, so we used to go past those steel mills to Indiana to go to their house.
I actually did a blood drive once at one of the steel mills, and these people would come to us, and they were like filthy and like sweat dripping off of them.
Dirty and
and they would just come just to get like juice from us. I mean, because that was like a special treat for them. So they were like the hardest working men I've ever seen.
Yeah,
that's when a man was a man. I guess
built on the backs of America.
Right?
Yeah.
Gary was named after lawyer Elbert Henry Gary, the founding chairman of the United States Steel Corporation. So
U.S. Steel.
Yeah, U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel was established the city in 1906 as a company town to serve its steel mills. So when you hear politicians talk about the decline in manufacturing, I'm not going to get into politics here, but when you hear about them talking about the decline in manufacturing, Gary is hugely affected by this. U.S. Steel declined significantly in the 70s due to a lot of factors, one of them being increased foreign steel imports at lower cost. There needed to be updates in technology at the plant, and updating them would just cost way too much money. Market fluctuations and less demand for steel in general. We started using a lot of plastic then.
Little side factoid for you.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Vox fact.
Vox fact.
My great grandfather, who I knew before he died, which is usually how that works, was injured in the 1937 Memorial Day Massacre, which was a protest of the unions of the U.S. Steel union workers in Chicago.
Yes.
And he lost an eye.
Oh
my God.
Because
he had
of
a glass eye
the Chicago
after that?
police. Nope. He just had an eye patch my whole life.
Wow.
But the strike, it was a strike and a protest that got out of hand, and the police opened fire into the crowd, women and children. It was really awful. And so we, in my family, we grew up a very, on that side of the family was very heavy into civil rights and all that, because my great grandfather was a real big part of the Chicago unions, worked with Roosevelt. And they brought him to Washington and had him testify before Congress with all that stuff. So it was a real big piece of our family history. So anything I hear about U.S. Steel, I just immediately think of like all of that stuff. Like those guys, when you say they were hard workers, like, wow.
Later on, they became like a normal company to some extent. Some people, in
this
fact,
was 1937.
Yeah. In fact, Bob's dad worked for the steel mills, and he actually had a great career there.
And you mean Bob? He's referring to Bob After Dark.
Yeah, Bob from Bob After Dark.
Bob After Dark.
So I mean, but yeah, during the 30s and stuff like that, they were really bad to their employees. They wanted them to work like 16-hour days in this heat that was just unbearable. So yeah, definitely there was a lot of strikes, and there was a lot of bad stuff happened to the strikers
it was just a different time too.
Yeah.
Police used to get away with more than they can now.
Yeah.
Debatably.
Yeah. As a result of the economic shift, the city's population decreased dramatically, having lost 61% of its population since 1960. Because of its large population loss and deteriorating economy, Gary is often cited as an example of industrial decline and urban decay in America. Gary maintained a 40-year record of holding the nation's largest black population per capita. The city also boasts a legacy of African-American cultural and historical feats, such as electing the nation's first black mayor, hosting the first and largest national black political convention, and in 1945 became the first city in the Midwest and one of the first in the entire nation to integrate its public school system fully. So now we're going to get to the amens.
Setting the table, right?
So yeah, it's important to know what Gary is in order to understand this. It was a very diverse city when in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 50s, and then it declined. And that's when, it became primarily African-American, and the living conditions after the decline in the steel mills was just,
well, and so you can imagine the house that we're talking about is not a nice house. The neighborhood is not, I mean, I don't know that it was a bad neighborhood, but it wasn't thriving.
It was a steel workers neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was definitely, yeah. So in November of 2011, LaToya Amens, her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children, then aged 7, 9, and 12, moved into a house at 3860 Carolina Street, Sweet Carolina, in Gary, Indiana. Days after the family moved in, they claimed black flies swarmed the porch in December and kept returning repeatedly. So that's kind of odd right there, right? Flies in December. Usually they die off. But.
So as somebody who deals with demonic manifestations, that is certainly a well-known red flag that goes up for me.
Okay, so already you got one.
And I love that I don't know this. So it's like I will immediately go, okay, yep, that's something. That's something that I would have been paying attention to if I had walked into this place.
Yeah, and Zach talks about it in the Demon House too. So Campbell initially heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking. Later, she alleged to have witnessed a shadowy, sexy figure of a man pacing in the living room and found a boot print. I don't know why he was like a shadowy, sexy figure, but that's what the claim was.
Well, I will intersect and say that a lot of, not all, but a lot of demonic manifestation for men and women tends to be in sexual of nature.
Sure.
And I think that's because of
like the temptation.
Well, I mean, there's definitely that, but I think it's because we, especially in America, we live in such a society that, you know, was based on a puritanical level where sex isn't as, well, it has admittedly been a taboo in America.
Oh, yeah.
Where if you compare it to Europe, it's very different.
Even Canada, too.
And that's not to say that you don't have, you know, sexual violence in Europe, but compared to America, there's a lot more sexual violence in America. And I think it's because, and this is my official diagnosis, but I think it has to do with the fact that we have created such a taboo in American society around sex.
It's oppression.
That there is some sort of a restriction to sex for young men and women. And so it becomes this thing where when people want to act out against society, sexual deviance and violence tends to be kind of the thing.
Sure.
It's not to say that that doesn't happen in Europe, but it's not to the same degree as it is in America.
So what you're saying is the demons in Europe are not as sexy as they are here.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They're not as sexy.
But
I think, you know, and again, you know, in my experiences where I've actually visually seen things with my own eyes, I've never seen a full-bodied something that I could say, oh, that's an attractive figure. I've seen more shadowy figures. I've seen more things that, you know, translucent. I couldn't make out, you know, physical features.
Sure.
That's not to say that you know, when people who have been oppressed or possessed, I've seen them, but when it comes to just seeing disembodied apparitions, I've never been able to see anything specifically enough to be like, oh, that's a girl or that's a man. Other than like when I was a little kid. And
well, they have like the shadow man that wears the hat, you know, that guy.
Sure.
Well,
but
but what I'm saying is the fact that she described
able
it as
to
sexy to me, I think there may be something more mentally there.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that's not to say it wasn't a demon. I'm just saying you know, the whole sexuality aspect of it is usually an interplay with what they're trying to manifest.
Well, she also claimed that she was choked out by an unknown force, too.
Okay.
Eamon's 12-year-old daughter had claimed to have levitated above her bed, unconscious during a sleepover with a friend, which this story changes from time to time. So I'm just saying. And by the way, this is weird because I am usually the one giving the facts and I am giving the evidence here.
This is definitely a different kind of episode. Pat's just going to give us the story and then I promise.
As it's told.
Right. These are the things that were told in the newspaper, reported to the police, all of the things. And then when we get to my part, we'll kind of debate more.
Because never has media gotten it wrong.
I mean,
okay.
So they supposedly prayed until the girl returned to the bed. Although I did hear other stories with this, so I will talk about that later.
Am I allowed to interject? I don't want to derail anything. Okay. So, levitation is something that is often referenced when people talk about demonic manifestation.
Sure.
I will say, I have witnessed in my experiences. I will say, sure, it's levitation, but it's not what they make it look like in the movies.
Sure.
Where you could take a hula hoop and go around the whole body, right? Now, I've seen the human body do things that we're not used to seeing.
Yeah.
Where you think like the Michael Jackson, and how we haven't mentioned the Jacksons talking about Gary Indiana.
Oh yeah,
true. The Smooth Criminal music video, he leans forward. I've seen the human body go even further.
Ooh,
but still touching the ground.
Oh, that's almost like Matrix.
And that Father Martin
Carlos Martins?
He talks about that a little bit.
And what he references, and I like what he talks about, he references that demons and Lucifer, if you are to accept them as real entities, what they do is they are capable of manipulating the light, manipulating our perception of light.
Right, yes.
And so for our eyes, we're seeing things that sure look like, but what we're really seeing maybe is an illusion of light, and like when
that would make more sense to me because I am big into like, well, this can't happen because of physics,
but at the same time, still having a human body going this way, and not touching the ground with like nose to the ground. I mean, that's still physically impossible. But I've never seen someone literally come off the ground. Yeah, you know. Now I have. Okay. I've seen things that don't physically make sense. Yeah. Right. And if you have, that's that's fine. And I'm not saying this to say that that's not possible. I'm saying that I haven't seen it. Yeah. But I've seen things that people go, oh, they levitated. It's like, well,
I will talk about my theory of the case.
That's fine.
When we get a little later.
Okay.
And I will tell my story. And I've told it before, but I will tell it again.
The daughter had no memory of this incident, by the way. The older son was allegedly thrown across the room by an unknown force. The younger son allegedly had his eyes roll into the back of his head and was growling, saying, "It's time to die, and I will kill you."
Say it creepy. Say it creepy.
I was gonna, It's time to die, and I'll kill you. Yeah. Worked at a haunted house, so.
I mean, all of those things sound typical.
Yeah. I mean, as far as a possession goes,
or someone having a seizure.
Yeah, that could happen. The family contacted their physician, Gregory... Jeffrey, and I'm going to butcher the last name, Onikawu. I don't know.
Sounds good.
on April 19th, 2012. So like a year after they moved in there. When he visited the house during the supposed haunting, he noted their behavior was delusional. Someone from his office contacted the police. After the police arrived, the children were taken to the hospital. The older boy described as acting rationally, while the younger boy screamed and thrashed. In 2012, the Department of Children's Services, the DCS, was alerted to the family. DCS believed that the children were performing for their mother. Sensational stories published in the New York Daily News reported that the DCS personnel had allegedly witnessed the youngest boy walking up the wall backwards. So that's a big thing for that. 37-year-old police captain Charles Austin believed paranormal activity occurred in the house. A photo published by the Indianapolis Star claimed to show a shadowy figure when no one was home. By the way,
who took the photo?
Yeah. Well, I know who did it. The police did it, actually. The police were playing paranormal investigators at this time. They were there taping things, and anything that they had heard that people did, they were there doing, taking pictures, and I mean, probably tainting the whole entire crime scene-ish area. But anyways, so that's what they were doing. He also said that someone drove his car, or that his seat moved, and in a weird way that it like he wasn't telling it to move it that way. So like he wasn't controlling it.
Oh, was it like like power seating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It comes out later that that's what it is. When they actually tell the story, it makes it sound like his car is moving some kind of crazy way or something like that. But actually, it's that it was a power seat and the motor was out. So, anyways, the family hired Reverend Michael Magnant.
How do you spell it?
Maginot.
Yeah.
Magnoy? I don't know.
Bob
did an interview with
French,
him.
Maybe?
Bob from Bob After Dark did an interview with him. If you want to listen to that, you can. He performed an exorcism on April 22nd, 2012, and he interviewed the family and concluded that they were being tormented by demons. He eventually performed 3 or 4 exorcisms, 2 in English and 1 in Latin at the very least. One exorcism was performed on LaToya Ammons. The Ammons family moved to Indianapolis in 2012, after which the events were said to have stopped. In 2014, our good friend Zach Baggins went in and bought the house for $35,000, and he demolished it in January 2016, claiming that the house was cursed.
And so were the taxes.
Taxes are probably pretty low in Gary, I would imagine. But he did film a documentary titled Demon House there, which was released on March 16th, 2018. Dread Central's Steve Bacentral said it one of the most compelling documentaries on the existence of the supernatural that he's ever witnessed. But the Los Angeles Times reviewer Noel Murray called the film hooey. According to skeptical investigator Kenny Biddle, the film has been categorized as a pseudo-documentary, meaning it is filmed in a documentary style but doesn't portray real events. And then also the movie The Deliverance came out in 2024, and it's based on the events.
Was Zach Baggins involved in that film?
Oh,
I don't
no,
think so.
not at all.
No consulting or producing?
So you see this in Demon House. Like he originally goes and talks to the family and he gets some interviews with them, but then they kind of shut down. And he learns that they're shopping their story to a couple other places.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so he gets cut off from them and their
which
their
made me so
input.
sad. I mean,
Well, and
Okay.
I will say it's interesting. He does a good job. I mean, there's he claims that some people that came to the house were affected afterwards. Like one person got cancer, another person had his organs shut down.
he
and
had
was
the
in
priest on the show
hospital.
too. He was the first person to have the priest in interview.
Yeah, he interviewed the priest, talked about it. The priest didn't come to the house, I don't think, but
No.
and then some other people who had lived there before, or rented it since. I'm not sure. That was the different family.
No, they were before that.
Yeah, they were before. They kind of claimed some creepy things happened, but
They never claimed any possession or any hauntings. They just said they were weird things.
Yeah.
So.
And then a member of his team acts all weird.
Yeah.
Like he's seeing stuff.
He puts
He
his
gets
hat to the
angry.
side, puts his hat sideways.
And it's
So that's how you know he
sideways.
was like.
I mean,
You know
I'm
things are
somewhat
happening.
familiar with Zach's stuff. I mean, years ago, my kid really liked his stuff, so we would sit and watch some of it, and I was like, okay, whatever, But
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Well, he
Yeah.
locked himself into
He did. He boarded himself in.
Boarded him right
the
before it
house.
was, torn down. So basically,
I just, doing what I do,
yeah.
it's kind of like, if there's even the remote possibility that something
Yeah.
could be real,
Right.
why would you
do that?
Do that? I mean, you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, and it affected Zach too. He got angry a couple times and started yelling at people. And then he was
supposedly
like, "What
hurt
did
his
I do?"
Eyes.
Yeah, it hurt his eyes forever. He had to he had to have some work done on his eyes because of that.
Then that's why he tore down the house, because he was
Yeah.
like, "This is not safe."
Yeah, because his eyes got damaged.
But the father was upset with him. The reverend was upset with him because he didn't think that he thought that might release
okay.
the demons to tear it down. I don't know.
All right. Well, that is the
Interesting.
history. Does anyone have anything to add to this?
No, I think we
Okay.
covered kind of
All right.
what I had there.
So, what do you think as far as like an exorcism goes?
The problem is I don't know enough of the things that I would ask.
Yeah.
To investigate before anything is required. I mean, some of the accounts, like I'm already hearing mixed tellings of like, the mom said the daughter was levitating, but then the daughter said she was levitating, but then the daughter doesn't remember what happened.
The daughter doesn't remember, but everybody else in the room. But we're going to get to this with the debate.
Okay.
So let's save this. Let's
Sure,
save
sure,
this.
sure.
We got this coming. So
All right.
let's take a break.
All right. So are you ready for a debate, Rebecca?
I'm ready.
Vox, you ready?
Am I the moderator at this point?
No.
You're
you
here
will
to
be-
add your expert.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Whichever side that you happen to fall on in
Yeah,
that
no,
particular
I will give you
evidence.
my honest thoughts and opinions.
There you
I
go.
appreciate that.
All right. So there is a lot to talk about, both with the experience this family had. We can talk a little bit about what happened with Zach Baggins and his team. Pat gave us the rundown of what happened with the Amons family, but we're going to dive a little deeper. And my goal is to, focus on things that were supposedly witnessed by other people,
Okay.
not just the family.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's, when it's
Because
just
the family would have motive to not be honest, if that's possible.
right.
I understand.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to go through the evidence. I'm going to give our guests a chance to talk about the things that the family did, like to deal with this. Like there's just a couple things. And then we can focus obviously mostly on the evidence of stuff.
Wait, before you do that, though,
Yeah.
since we're not going to focus on the family, I would like to say a couple things.
Well, we
though.
are going to talk about the family.
Okay. All right. Then I'll talk
Well, no,
about
no,
it then.
no, okay. I was going to say, I mean,
You two are adorable, by the way.
So, I mean, I'm just saying it's not just the family that
Okay.
witnessed whatever.
All right.
Okay. But if there's anything you want to say first.
No, it's okay. I don't know what you're going to present, so I'm see where I can fit it in.
All right. Well, let's talk about those footprints, right?
All right,
So we had
yes.
the wet boot prints were seen by both. I've seen reports both by LaToya Amons and Rosa Campbell. They were also later seen by the Reverend when he was
Okay.
there, and it's one of the things that kind of convinced him this was legit.
Mhm.
Also, and this is weird, and I'm really curious what you think about it, Vox. There was oil dripping on the blinds.
Now, is this from Zach talking
No,
about it?
this is not from-
Because Zach did talk
It
about
was
that.
also Zach talked
Yeah.
about it, but it's something. This was witnessed by the family, the Reverend, CPS, and the police. There's just like these weird things of oil just like dripping,
And they cleaned it and then
and
came
then
back.
came
And it
back,
came
and
back.
it would be there again.
Interesting. Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, like, anyways, that's it. So we got wet footprints, and we got oil dripping on the blinds.
and who witnessed the oil?
The oil was pretty much everybody that
Okay.
came to the house.
Okay.
So
That's very interesting. There are certain connections to manifestation of physical properties. Oil, I mean, just on a non-religious aspect, just like a
Mhm.
ghost hunting thing. I mean, the spectral thing. I'm remembering like Ghostbusters, right?
Oh,
Like-
sure,
like-
sure.
like ectoplasm, some sort of ectonic plasmic thing, some sort of breakthrough between dimensions or what have you. Maybe it could be something, or it could be that before they brought the priest in, they maybe had someone else who tried to use actual oil to bless the house, which maybe it didn't work. And so they maybe denied that piece or ignored that piece of information or didn't explain it. If a family really believes that their house is haunted or needs something, they're going to probably do all different things. They're going
and we will talk about some of the things
Yeah.
they did, but that's a good point.
Yeah,
that they
so
might
it's
have
possible
done
that they may have tried something.
Mhm.
I mean, what I find fascinating about stuff now, like when you hear these older stories, it was before YouTube and stuff like, well, this is
Sure.
in a YouTube age.
This is,
so
yeah, for sure.
people could have just gone online and was like, well, how do you get rid of a ghost in your house? And, you got to get this oil and put it on the walls.
Sure.
And like that is a literal thing. That is a thing. That is actually a practice that I have practiced. But I don't put it on the blinds. but
I mean, not yet. Maybe,
but it's possible that
next
maybe
time.
they tried or somebody else tried, and maybe
Yeah.
I mean it could have been an
Yeah.
individual could have come in and tried it, and they didn't know what they did when they weren't there.
Sure.
Like, so I mean, it's the presence of a physical, tangible, organic thing.
Mhm.
To me, Occam's razor says somebody put it there.
What do you
Okay.
think,
The
Pat?
purpose is,
Yeah.
So I have to go into my explanation of the family in
Okay.
order to do this.
Now is
okay.
the time.
So they moved to Gary, Indiana. They weren't from Gary, Indiana.
dun
Okay.
dun dun.
They had no friends. Their only family was the people living in that particular house. And the kids were acting out a lot. And this is known, by the way. The kids were acting out a lot because they didn't have any friends. They weren't allowed to just go explore and stuff like that too. They had to stay in
scary Indiana.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So they had to stay in the house all the time.
We're so judgmentally Chicago.
We really are.
So I mean, that's one thing. Okay. So the family, they had a lot of issues with that particular thing. LaToya, I'm not going to go into specifics about her, but she definitely had some hard times. She was a very religious woman too. She was, I don't know. I don't know if she still is. No one's heard from her. So it's impossible now after the fact, now that the movie came out and everything like that.
And this is the Glenn Close character, right?
No. This is the daughter. This is the one.
No, the one who's religious.
They actually mixed that up.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
They mixed that up.
I think they both are religious.
Okay.
Yeah, LaToya was more religious. She actually put up a shrine in the basement and had a bunch of things there, like oils and stuff like that.
See, that to me tells me it's
Yeah.
more likely than she probably tried something.
But also, the kids, when they were acting out, they would act out in this super religious way.
Okay.
Like I'm saying she was Christian, but she was not just your average Christian. She was the Christian that was very, very devout,
Okay.
Although she didn't act like that outside of her beliefs, I don't know how to explain that without getting
so just to interject, doing what I do, if this was like an intake situation.
Yeah.
So far, only one piece of information that I heard was sufficient for me to go, maybe.
Yeah.
Everything else so far, I'm not so sure it isn't acting out or seeking attention or what have you. I'm not saying definitively that it isn't, but I'm saying I haven't heard a specific thing that really checks off the boxes. Yeah. I heard something, and the flies thing mentioned, that is definitely something that raises an antenna for me. But it is also something that there could be a dead possum under the porch, and that's why there's flies. I mean, it could be just as easy as that. But
flies also, they will go to an area where they're safe during the winter time. Yeah. But so there's a little bit more to this story though too, because Rebecca didn't mention this, and she might mention it in a second. But in the Zach Baggins documentary, he said that the priest purposely went into the room, cleared the blinds of all oil, which I don't know how you would do that,
rag?
But it was like the oil was all gone. Wouldn't the oil still stick around in the blinds?
Use a cleaner anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can clean that oil off 100%. But
I don't know how a priest cleans.
Yeah,
I don't.
Probably
use Formula 409.
Yeah, I don't know.
Psalm 40. I don't know.
But so what he did is he closed the door and he put a Q-tip in the door so that he can see if it was moved.
Okay.
And he claimed that the Q-tip had not moved, but there was oil, meaning that the oil came from within the room, and not from the kids.
Okay.
But the kids were tall enough to be able to move the Q-tip.
Sure.
So I'm thinking that that's what happened. I'm thinking
they were aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's still a lot of elements that could easily be explained away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even for me, I mean, like, again, maybe putting it with all the other things, maybe, that's part of it. And I am, it is persuasive to me that the priest felt it was something. However, I don't know. Maybe there was something leaking from the ceiling.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You clean it up,
and then
priest, a few minutes later, the oil's back.
And I mean, was this priest someone who is
reputable?
Well, no, it's not that. But is the priest somebody who regularly deals in exorcisms? Because if not, then the Catholics are very tight about who gets to deal with it and who doesn't. And so if these
were not sanctioned.
So if it wasn't sanctioned,
his bishop knew about it, but it wasn't. Yeah.
So again, but my point is they may not have the appropriate knowledge base to be able to have an effective diagnosis of this is demonic manifestation.
Are we going to talk about the priest again?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to save my stuff.
And I'm
for
not,
the priest.
I'm not trying to discredit the priest. I'm just saying there's pieces of information that I would want to know.
Yeah.
I was on the grand jury of spiritual,
sure.
whatever.
Okay. So usually we give a rating
Yeah.
of how strongly we feel this evidence supports that this story is true.
Could go 0 to 10. 10 being this is totally, you can't deny this. 0 being there is no proof at all for this. So
what's your
0?
Yours is the easy one.
That's your baseline.
Yeah.
I mean, the flies thing, to me, that's a very, how do I word this? That's something that we don't talk about very often in the business of going after demons. So the fact that the family pointed it out.
Well, except for The Exorcist. I mean, it was all over in The Exorcist.
Okay. Yeah. Well, sure. That's fair.
Amityville,
That's
which
fair.
by the way, this...
I think it was more Amityville than
this totally reminds me of a cross between Amityville and The Entity House.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of The Entity House?
I have not.
Okay. It's another one similar to this.
I'm the worst exorcist ever. I'm not a big horror fan, so I don't watch all that stuff.
That's probably for the best.
Probably it's fine.
So again, like all these little things that happened before things escalated, right? So the flies, the footprints, and the oil. I don't know, where does that?
The oil is interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Where you land with that. I'm gonna give it a 5. Like I'm like, it's a little interesting, but I'm not sold yet.
Do we have more evidence?
We
to
have
present?
more. We
okay,
have
well
four
then
more
I'm
pieces
not
to
gonna.
go.
Right now I'm at a 3.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm at a 3 right now, but I'm waiting to hear more evidence.
We got more evidence
that'll move
coming.
me.
Yes.
That'll move me.
All right, let's talk about the levitation.
Okay, let's
right?
talk about it.
So we told the story already, and we talked about it, right? So both Latoya and Rosa claimed to see the 12-year-old daughter levitating. And also there were witnesses. There were people staying with them at the time who also claimed to see this, and that praying is what resolved the situation. So do you have anything to add, Pat?
Oh, I will. I mean, but yeah, we usually let our guests go first.
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean, so if there was an actual manifestation where the child was being levitated, and first of all, if their thought was to pray, great job. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, in my experience, if a demon is manifesting, there's a reason, and the demon wants you to see what it's doing. In my experience, and again, I don't know what they were praying.
Yeah.
Depending on how they were praying, I'm curious as to, it was a slow, peaceful, resolution, as opposed to with the other child getting thrown across the room. Prayer is like turning the volume up on somebody's headphones when they're not expecting it to a demon. So I can't imagine it being, we're being, prayed at. We're just going to gently put the child down. In my experience, the demons, who, by the way, hate humans, hate us, in my belief.
Yeah.
So any opportunity to
Screw us over.
to harm and torment and hurt and fear or frighten, they would do it. So
I don't know at what speed she came down.
Well, I think they had mentioned it was she slowly went back down.
No, I that was just in my story.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I was listening.
She embellishes those stories.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I set a scene.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I would I wish I had more information, but yeah, I mean that's
we didn't see it. So
I can give you some more information.
on the levitation.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Sure, let's have it.
So
he's like, it didn't happen. Oh, okay.
Latoya was the one that talked about this, by the way. All of
and Latoya is
other,
the mom.
Yeah, the
like
mom.
the mom of the kids.
Yes,
Right.
Yes. The middle.
I'm loosely basing it off of the film that I saw.
Yeah,
so
yes.
I'm trying to.
Yes.
Latoya was the one that spoke of it. She was the only one that spoke of it. The other witnesses, there's no people that actually say that they saw it, except for people that are part of this family, by the way. Also, LaToya gave interviews, which, by the way, she had exclusive deals with people. Also, many people had exclusive deals in this particular story. But anyways, LaToya had an exclusive deal. She gave this, I forget what the name of the newspaper was, but she said, she constantly changed this story, by the way. The one time she said, and this is the time that I am going to go with, she said that the demon picked her up and threw her. So that's what the levitating would be. She did not say that it was the child was hovering up. She just picked her up and threw. She was also on a bed. And this child could easily jump up off the bed and use the bed as a spring to get up in the air. She didn't get up that far. And that is what I'm going to say happened if we are on the up and up, which I don't feel that we are in this. I feel that there is a lot of embellishing. I feel that there is a lot of storytelling with this. But if this did happen, it was that the daughter threw herself off the bed.
To be fair, and I'll definitely dance on both sides of the fence here for the sake of knowing how your show goes.
Yeah.
But I would say both things could be true. Whereas if a demon oppressed this child or maybe even possessed the child, still using the child's physical ability is still possible.
Yeah. I'm just saying
the question is
supernatural then.
Well, but it could be. You know,
it could be, but there's no proof to.
If a demon is possessing me and taking my hand and taking this cup and throwing it at something.
Wait, you would throw the David Vox Mullen cup across the room?
But the point is whether or not it's my action or if it's an action of what is oppressing or possessing me. Scientifically, physically, it's tangible, right?
Yeah.
So, I just did this, right? Well, maybe it wasn't me, right? So both could be true.
But as far as like the proof goes, as far as this evidence goes, it's impossible to prove that it would be that.
What's concerning to me, and it's not enough for me to definitively say these people are faking it.
Yeah.
But I do have concerns with the obvious capitalizing financially on the story.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm not saying that these things didn't happen to these people, but if their focus is more on, what can we get out of it?
Sure.
Again, I'm not going to say it's not real, but it does cause me to wonder, how genuine is this information?
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, because like I said, people are people. I mean, nobody's perfect. And I've been baffled by people who have had oppression and possession in their lives. And I tell them, oh, you need to do this or that. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to.
No.
And it's like, aren't you afraid? Yeah. You're like, why do you not want to do this?
Well, there's people with mental illness that are prescribed medication that don't take their medication.
Of course.
Because they feel that they don't need it or that it's not true or whatever, have you.
And when we grow up in a society of tangible cause and effect as we know it, right? As the theory of everything, our physical world that we seem to understand.
Sure.
Even though the more we discover, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But when something out of that norm happens to people, they don't really know how to process it. So it's understandable. But I do... Right now, I'm definitely leaning on the skeptical side than the believer side.
And this is where I will start to give a little bit of my potential theory of the case, which I think it's really important that the daughter is 12.
Okay.
That is significant. Honestly, most of the cases of poltergeisty activity.
Sure.
So we can say it's demonic. We could say it's ghosts. We could say
in
it's
a home.
Entity in a home. Happen when there is a girl who is going through puberty. That is consistent with Enfield and many other stories.
Okay.
And in fact, while it didn't happen, I was not the person, my best friend was. Where when you're at that stage in your life, for some reason, girls draw that attention. And stuff happens. Weird stuff happens. Stuff that is unexplainable. And I think that it's very possible that may be the instigator. And it also, I think, matters that you said the children are troubled, right? They're going through stuff.
Multiple elements.
You know what I mean? Like it all adds to it. When I talk about levitation, that I absolutely...
Yeah, I feel like we have to get an explanation on your story here.
So, and I believe I've talked about this before on the show. And in fact, we've had this friend of mine on the show. But you've made...
And you talked to her on it, about it on the show.
But if you've ever had or heard of girls at their sleepover, will play Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board.
Oh, yeah.
And of course...
Which, by the way, kids, don't play this game.
Well, this is also
leading
play
Bloody Mary
to something.
Instead.
No, don't do that.
No, don't
it's
do
a much
that
better
either.
game.
Candyman just died.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
sorry.
We did
It's okay.
Bloody Mary, by the way, to see if Bloody Mary would.
I only do those on Sundays.
Yeah. Oh. So, but anyways, we did it. All of us took turns. I've done it many times. The only person that it worked on was this friend of mine who had a lot of things happen around her, and it worked. I mean, I don't know how else to tell you. All of us were like, what is happening right now? But she was not on the ground.
And everybody let go.
And we had literally fingertips. Like there was zero way that us little girls could have held. And she was not... Yes.
Okay, so, I mean...
So for me, anyways.
Okay.
But so just to say that I feel like... Here's my other part of it. This is what I've heard that Father Martinson talk about too. Is that what Martin?
Father Carlos Martins.
Carlos Martins. Yeah. I will get it right.
He's the new Indiana Jones.
I think it was him or somebody was talking about like almost always, or just maybe people have talked about this, like almost always if there's something demonic or whatever happening, people are doing something to invite it in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And they may not realize it.
Absolutely.
And so again, we have this girl, she's going through this. I think she's drawing things in. And I do think the family or the girl or whoever might have been doing stuff, might have been playing with the Ouija board.
Yeah, no, of course.
Might have been doing whatever. We don't know. Built this altar, like whatever.
The mother built the
mother built the altar. But I mean, like, so is the family dabbling in something?
Yeah.
And then just, stuff happens.
Just to take it back, just to talk about your friend for a second, just so that so you and I can get on the same page.
Yes.
So when I was describing, levitation, you get the hula hoop around and whatever. So a hula hoop would not have worked in your situation.
I don't know. We didn't dare try it.
But that's what I'm saying is you guys were all still connected.
Yes.
Now, that being said, that connection, for me, I could see a demon doing that.
Sure.
Because you were all doing that and the laws of physics. Because here's the thing. What I do know about demons is they're legal. Demons are legal. They know the rules. They know what they are allowed and not allowed to do. And they will push the limits, but they will not cross lines of legalism.
And this is where you're saying like movies are not necessarily like...
Right. You can't trust movies.
Yeah.
So in that instance, if you and your friends were playing Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, which again, kids, don't play this game. It's a really stupid idea. But the fact that you were just like a planchette on an Ouija board, everybody has to do it. And then there was all the stories of, it goes off on its own. And that may be true, but it didn't start that way.
Right.
And so if there is a physical human connection, then there's enough in the realm of physics, science or legal science, so to speak, that they could go, well, technically,
right.
No,
There's
we
6
didn't.
Girls,
yeah, we didn't really lift her off the ground. Well, yeah, you did, but because there was connection, there's plausible deniability and all that. So, because again, they like to play that game. So now I absolutely believe you, and I agree with you, and now I understand that. But again, to my point is, I have never seen a situation where someone has completely lifted off of the ground without any other physical connection. I've seen contortions to the point where it doesn't look real.
And I wonder if that really was, when you say she said she jumped or she was thrown and she could have jumped off the bed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like that makes sense. And then maybe she turned it into levitation because people weren't believing her or something like that. Who knows?
But I mean, the story kept changing. Though.
But listen, there has been levitation reports in exorcist situations, in exorcism and demonic manifestation. So I'm not denying that it happens.
Yeah.
I'm denying it happens as it did in the films.
I'm denying it happened here. That's what I'm denying. So I'm going to give it a zero.
Okay,
again,
I gotcha.
yes.
I'm still at about a 3 right now.
Okay.
I'm going up.
I'm at an 8 on your friend's story, but I'm a 3. I'm a 3 on this one.
I'm going up to a 6.
Okay.
All right. Now I just, this is your thing where you get upset with me because I bring a bunch of things together.
I want as many things as possible because I part of me, my confirmation bias is I want to believe. Right?
So I'm saving the.
I would love to, but I can't.
I'm saving the biggest thing for the next one, but there's a little bit here. Okay, so this is one where most of this, the only reports that I have are from the mom, from Latoya. Okay, she claimed that her children showed the following signs of possession. She claimed their eyes would bulge out, their smiles would turn evil, and they would speak in deep guttural voices. Her youngest son would apparently speak to a spirit visible only to himself, while our middle child discussed what it felt like to die.
Okay. So what was the first one?
So there's like bulging eyes.
So that is definitely manipulation of light.
That makes sense.
I've witnessed that my own self many times with individuals who,
Creepy.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible. It's not fun to experience.
No.
Sounds like something out of Beetlejuice.
Smiles.
So let me take a step back. I say it's not fun to experience. I'm being sarcastic. It was terrifying when I was a younger man. Early experiences, as I have experienced it many times over. Doesn't
now
scare
you
me.
know.
No, it's a parlor trick.
Sure.
So yeah, most of the time, and of course, all of these things I'm saying right now, I am literally opening myself up to be attacked. Just so you guys know. I'm aware of it. They know that I know it. I'm not afraid of them. They know I'm not afraid of them, but they hate me just as much as they hate you and everybody else. So whatever. Yeah. Whatever, I don't care.
You would think they'd especially hate me, though, because I don't give them any...
They love you.
You're the best.
Oh,
they love you because of what you could do to others.
Oh, well.
For now. But if you ever change, then they'll really hate you. But
darn.
Anyway... so the bulging eyes, I would definitely say that does fit within their ability of manipulation of light.
Okay.
What was the second thing?
Evil smiles.
That also is the light thing. That is, I mean,
that's what
people
I was
have reported to
thinking.
you. I mean, I've seen it where it looks like the face
like the
contorts.
Joker.
Well, yeah, the face can contort to a shape that doesn't look human.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, it may not
Uncanny Valley.
Right. It may not actually. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure that's like
when something like it's like plasticky.
Yeah, like a fake person, but looks a little too real.
Sure.
Kind of, you know.
But yeah, that's all manipulation of light. So
and then deep guttural voices.
So that is, again, I would have loved to have heard it, but that is a pretty common thing with possession, not with oppression, with possession.
Okay.
When the demon is able to actually manipulate the vocal cords and the diaphragm, very common.
Okay.
By the way, the house was claimed to by a clairvoyant that Latoya saw have 200 demons in it.
She had 2 clairvoyants come in and both told her to move.
Yeah.
So,
before anything happened, by the way. Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. I'm not here to say that clairvoyants are real or are not real. What I will say is if clairvoyants, fortune tellers or psychics, if they really are capable of hearing and sensing, the other side, what have you, if we're dealing with demons, and not, great Uncle Paul's ghost.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
If we're dealing with demons, we have to keep in mind that they literally are liars. And they lie. They're deceitful. So anything they could do to manipulate and confuse and contort, that, so that the guttural voices, again, any kid who has seen a scary movie on TV can, I'm going to replicate that.
But can you?
And that was one of those, well, I mean, if you try, you might be able to, but
yeah, because they're young.
One of the things that Father Gabriel Amorth was famous for doing was asking in certain situations, what is the kid watching? You know,
sure.
What has the kid seen? What does the kid know? You know,
Sure.
and the reason why he does that, and I was going to bring it up because I don't think we have any information. I haven't heard any evidence that talks about things that were said other than it's time to die or whatever, which is pretty, I'm sorry, but kind of innocuous, you know, from a demon's perspective. Yeah. But one of the telltale signs that usually push, at least Catholics down yes, this is a demon. It has to exhibit physical manifestation. It has to exhibit knowledge of things that they could not have knowledge of, which gets to that point where I was talking about where Father Amorth would ask, you know, is there a TV in the house? Does a kid watch TV? Or, you know, like, do they have knowledge of things? A lot of times demons will manifest by saying things to the observer that they could not possibly know.
Yeah, and this,
you know,
there's nothing
there's
in
not
this one.
that.
And then the other is languages that are
sure,
not
yeah.
Those are the top three.
In fact, I would go the exact opposite with this particular story, and I would say that the mother's influence in religion is kind of where he's drawing this from, is because she has talked about this. She brought the clairvoyance in before anything happened. It is only after it happened that they started claiming that this is what it was.
I'll share something with you with how I, you know, handle my family when I have children, you know. My wife, God bless her, she was made aware of all of the things that I had experienced and stuff like that before we got married. But I tried to shield my children from any of that information. I mean, they're aware of some of it now because they're adults, but when they were young, I purposely tried to not let them experience any of that stuff that I ever dealt with.
You didn't talk about the South American tour and
like the Mexican thing.
Yeah, the Mexican thing.
No, I really didn't. Because of that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to have information that could manipulate things,
play in their imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, so I actually agree with you. I think if that mom was like going to church every week and, you know, whatever,
it was not necessarily church. It was more
or
her
whatever
own
she was
beliefs.
getting her.
Yeah, her own beliefs that were definitely askew of what, you know, most people would. It goes to the extra.
Sure. And listen, I mean, I'm a hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
Because
we all are.
I try to tell people, you know, you got to be careful with the demon stuff because it's sexy. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's salacious, right? And a lot of Christians or just a lot of
that's
church
what we're
folk,
hoping for. I mean, with this episode,
they get into that stuff, right? Now, granted, it's a world in which I happen to deal with a lot, but it was kind of, it's not something I want to be dealing with, if that makes sense. I mean, you know me personally. I have goals and dreams and things I want to do. That's not a part of the stuff that I want to be dealing with. I just happen to have knowledge. I have had experiences, and I just happen to know how to deal with them. Right. And so it's just a part of my life. But it's not something that I think a lot of people understand. And so
absolutely.
when if she was even remotely interested in that, which would make sense, I could see her absolutely projecting that on the kids.
Yeah. Well, so this kind of goes with just one other piece I wanted to just give you a chance to talk about is Pat mentioned she built this altar in the basement, which is a little weird.
It's a little weird.
It's a little weird. She also burned sage. Okay, heard of that. And sulfur.
Yeah. Well, sulfur sometimes is used as the like to light incense. They will light sulfur and put the incense on top of it.
Oh, I mean, this is the pagan over here. So
exactly. Yeah.
Is that just so it burns longer or something, or
it burns actually quicker?
So the interesting thing is that sulfur is generally the odor of a demon manifest,
right?
So I find that fascinating that Usually I wouldn't want anything sulfur that I brought into the home.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
more
because
charcoaly.
it would make me think.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. So like
it's
that's
more
interesting.
it's more charcoaly though than it is like actual sulfur smell for this particular thing, and but that's something that they do. Yeah.
So, but the point of this was to cleanse the house.
I am literally believing
And
this story less and less as we go. Sorry.
That's all right. We got the. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
how it
no.
goes.
Let's keep
But
going.
anyways, anyways, I just thought that was a little weird that to.
So do you
burn
have
that around the
experience
house.
burning sage?
I don't
Yes.
burn it, but I am aware that people have
To cleanse the
used
house.
it to cleanse the house. I don't know if I don't have a biblical basis for the usage of sage.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, when Jesus was born, they brought him
Frankincense and myrrh.
I mean, and the Catholics do burn incense. That's fine. But as far as,
By the way, frankincense and myrrh is not the most pleasant smell. I will say that. Okay. Anyways, because I have burned it.
I'll take
so.
the gold though. But
Yeah, the gold is good.
but yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying I don't have any biblical basis, and I haven't really seen where it's really effective.
Yeah.
I've in fact, every time I've ever been asked to bless a house, it's been by people who have already burnt sage, and apparently it didn't work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and she said that it worked for a few days, and then that was it. So
well, and I will say, not in the defense of demons, but for the explanation of demons, is demons love to play the long game,
Yeah.
right? So they'll go, oh, okay, I will let you think you did it,
Yeah.
and then they'll wait a month,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll come back. What biblically based, I believe it's Matthew. I'm a terrible Christian if I don't have my Bible verses memorized, and I could Google it later. But basically, they were saying, once you clean a house, once the demon has been, rebuked, it will come back with 7 other demons to find a clean house ready to be hit again. So, and that's kind of what I briefly touched on earlier, is I spent a lot of time in the universe of Protestant deliverances where let's just get it done, get it handled and move on.
Yeah.
Not focusing on what was the doorway, what opened it, why,
Sure.
and not realizing they're just going to come right back, and so
Yeah.
That's-
As a pagan, I had to think about all the aspects. I had to think about, okay, this might give me temporary relief, but what about the long term? What about,
see, I think about that now.
yeah, like yes, it might help me, but is it going to hurt somebody else in the process by me? So, because you had to pay for any damage that you did. So that's, anywho, I'm going to give this one a
it's
0
fascinating.
too. So
So this is the eyes bulging, smiles, and the guttural voices.
So eyes bulging, smiles, guttural voices. That's not enough for me to say, yes, it's a demon. But if there was a demon, those manifestations would make sense to me.
Okay.
So would you put
the
a number
3,
to it?
Going up to a 4.
I really would love to go up, but I just,
well, you have 2 more pieces of evidence, 2 big pieces of evidence too.
I'll go 3.5.
Okay.
Oh, we're not supposed to do points, but anyways, that's okay.
I'm fine with the point.
I know you are. What are you giving it?
This I'm going to stay with my 6.
Okay.
I'm going to stay with my 6. All right. So the next series of events is what leads to the exorcisms.
Okay.
So, and Pat already talked about this stuff, but we'll just run through it a little bit. So they do go to their doctor,
Mhm.
right? And the the doctor sees him. I think he sends him home. They eventually go to the hospital.
This is 2011?
This is
2012.
2012.
2012. Okay.
April.
April 2012. And so in the hospital, the sons begin to curse at the doctor in deep voices. One boy was lifted up and thrown into the wall without anybody touching him.
Or the doctor did it
I don't know.
and just said,
The boys passed out after this. And then when they woke up in the hospital, the youngest son began growling and attempted to choke his brother. And then, this is the big one. The older boy, quote, glided backward on the floor wall, and ceiling before backflipping over his grandmother, all while holding her hand.
Okay, so...
And then at this point, CPS lady in an interview claimed she was there and saw it.
Okay.
No, it wasn't the CPS lady.
It was.
It was the social worker at the hospital.
Social worker. Yeah.
No, it was two different people.
Oh, okay. Well, it was the social worker that worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people at the hospital, as well as the
Mrs. Washington at the hospital, which she was the boss of the social worker, I believe, or
Yes.
she became the boss. Anyways, but yeah.
And they said they just were like, noped out a little bit on that. But the hospital chaplain is the one that then calls the reverend.
Okay.
Like, something's happening.
Okay.
We need the church, basically.
So the movements are interesting. I'm trying to envision him holding his grandmother's hand.
Mm-hmm. Like climbing up and just kind of like flipping over. Yeah.
Okay. And depending on how small the room was,
Mm-hmm.
did he have was he able to reach,
Mm-hmm.
the wall?
He was able to reach 2 walls.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm imagining you could.
I mean, again, it seems like, kind of going back to what you've said, like this seems like a
parkour.
physical thing that could happen.
It could happen.
But
it could also be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I will say, in my experiences, when possessed people, when demons manifest, I would concur that they slide on the ground. They can go up a wall. But I mean, if you really had enough energy, I mean, I could literally run up this wall and flip and land on my feet, right? If you really have the energy. And I'm not going to hold anybody's hand and do it, but like, I don't know if holding the hand is enough for me to be like, oh, that's wild. I mean, it's just, was she like holding on to him, like not letting go, or?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that the holding the hand is actually what allowed this to happen.
Sure, because he had something to balance.
Yes,
off of. Yeah.
absolutely. And okay, so
But I will poke a little hole in that.
Yeah.
Much like your friend's story with the light as a feather, if there's a physical explanation, it can be used to do a more manipulative thing, because it's like, oh, well, like for your sake, okay, well, he was holding on to her. Like for your friend with the levitation thing, well, everybody was holding her up. Maybe it was 2 fingers each, but so it's like they can do it. So
the social worker was forbidden to talk about this ever again after she released that initial statement. She no longer works there.
see, that kind of goes against like a medical mindset.
Yeah. Well, but also too that she no longer worked there like pretty immediately after this event happened and after she spoke out.
Did she get fired or did she quit?
They don't say, but if
that's an
they fired
important
her,
distinction.
Yeah, but if they
Yes.
fired her, she could have, gotten some, retribution.
Why not?
with
Everybody's
that.
getting paid with this story
Yeah,
so far.
but I mean, but she did not. She did not get paid because, and she never spoke of it again after that particular moment. Also, her boss
Until today, she's on the phone. No, I'm just kidding.
her boss would not speak of this too, and they deny this particular event from happening. Now, also, the way that the situation is they are making it seem like it's harder than it is. You were onto something when you were like, they could easily, if they had enough energy. And this is the younger
kid.
boy.
Yeah,
This is the
no, I
younger
get it.
boy. He was very athletic too.
Sure.
And he could easily have done something like this with the help of his grandma holding on to, like, first of all, she braced him during that so that he could get up. So she gave
How
the
do you know
force.
that?
Well, I've read accounts.
Okay, no, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read accounts
Okay.
about it. That they've interviewed people that were in the vicinity of this particular thing happening. Also, I think the grandmother spoke of it, and just saying that they held hands, that means something to this particular story.
Yeah,
then.
it's confirmation.
Yeah. But he was able to do a flip then. It was not that difficult for him to do it because he had her holding when, like, he was able to push off of her, and then she also was stabilizing him as he was doing it too. I'm not saying she knew that she was doing this.
So, I mean,
this is why it's so important that you're here, Vox, because you are explaining why.
So here's the thing. Yes, the kids could physically do all of those things, right?
Yeah.
And again, the sensationalism of, he crawled up the wall, and maybe he just did like a wall flip or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever.
I mean, they did that in, the Rick Astley
right?
thing, right?
Lionel Richie was doing it. But at the same time, to go to my earlier point, if a demon possession is happening, that doesn't mean that didn't happen because of it. Where is the motive, right? The bigger thing that I find interesting, and what pushes me towards Rebecca's side a little bit, is mom wants to tell this. Let's just say it's all BS.
Mm-hmm.
Mom wants to convey this story for money. Okay. But she's got to get grandma on board. She's got to get children on board. I can't get my children to sit still in the car, right? And they're in their teens and 20s.
Yeah.
Like 9 and 12.
And that the kids would never
and not break character
ever.
And all that. See, that
By the way, the kids have never been interviewed, though.
I'm all right with that.
Well, and information may come out later in life, right? They may come out. I mean, it is
actually,
definitely.
I'm not sure that they are. They are just now turning like of age.
Okay, so we'll see what happens, and there's that. So right now, I think I'm moving up to a 5, and the 5 only exists as a middle for me. Kind of like I could see it literally being maybe one or the other. The concerns I have, okay, so my biggest concern is the probability of possession in itself is very slim per family of an individual.
Right.
But we're talking about multiple individuals exhibiting multiple manifestations that if it's possession, these are multiple people who are possessed in the home.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm saying if it's true, this is massive. Like we're talking like massive. Now, if it's 200 demons,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there.
Well,
I'll be honest with you guys right now. I'm feeling something right now. As I said that.
Okay.
And so, and I'm getting like a buzzy feeling right now.
Okay.
And I know what that is, but I'm not going to get into that here. So that right now is going to start pushing me towards a 6.
Yeah. I am going to say though that first of all, this family was not possessed prior to moving to Gary.
Yeah.
They were not possessed after.
So they
leaving.
entered into a situation.
They were. Hold on. There's more to this though.
Okay.
They were not possessed after leaving Gary. The people that owned the house prior to them were not possessed. The people that owned the house after them, their only concern was all the people that kept coming by the house taking pictures. They called the police on them. They had no any kind of
absolutely
until Zach Baggins came.
So here's the thing. In my experience, demons absolutely can attach to physical entities like a house, but they also attach to people.
But they're attaching to neither though, because they didn't leave with them. They didn't stay with them.
What you're describing isn't enough evidence to say that they didn't get brought in when that family moved into that house.
And that's
at
what I was
any point
trying
between
to get with like the altar and then the 12-year-old girl, like there was maybe enough with this particular family
they may have
opened
the door
something.
or while they were living in that Gary house. And then if it was dealt with, because in the movie it was dealt with, I don't know if it was really
we're going to get to the exorcism.
If it was, if an actual, first of all, if an actual exorcism happened and there was actually demons to exorcise, then that would also explain why no activity happened after the fact.
Yeah.
If it was a successful exorcism.
So So
I'm sorry, Pat. I can see the disappointment.
Oh no, it's not. It's not disappointment. It's me trying to convey messages that I'm incapable of conveying. That's what it is.
Nick is like, come on, Pat, come on.
No, I mean, the thing is that we are dealing with a very poor family that came into an environment where they felt that they could do something. The doctor gave them some kind of nod saying, hey,
confirmation bias.
You can, we are going to pursue other things because this is not physical. And I believe that they ran with that. They have exclusive deals. The mother had a deal. The grandmother had another deal. The kids, who knows? They're going to have a deal.
And that goes back to my earlier point, which is nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah.
People are fallible.
True.
We I hope that was the cat. The door moved.
Yeah.
But we are coming from a perspective of kind of self-righteousness of like, well, we would never do this. And, but if they were a poor family, I mean, and somebody said to them, wow, you know what, we'd love to tell your story and we'll pay you. If a news organization said, the first news organization says, we'll give you, $1,000 to tell your story. Well, that's the catalyst. And then they go, okay, well, if they're going to pay, well, then maybe CNN will pay, or maybe NBC will pay.
Because you would imagine that they would have had
Netflix paid
people there documenting it while it was happening if it was a premeditated thing.
No, not necessarily. Amityville, they didn't have that. The Entity House.
Wasn't Amityville eventually debunked?
Yeah,
Yes.
Amityville is, yeah.
Rebecca does not believe it was debunked, though.
You say that. I don't say that. I understand.
If you listen to our episode, she gave it like a 6.
I have to. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Anyways.
But like the end, there's other.
But the Entity House was kind of debunked. It's just, I mean, to me, it was just, I don't know. But whatever. Let's get to that last piece.
Let's keep going. And I think let's save the actual exorcisms as like a last discussion. Yeah. So just really quick, let's talk about the police. You mentioned the stories about the police, right? Okay. So they claimed to, have their equipment malfunction. They take weird photos. You said the seat moved. I didn't see that part. But and the one cop came back in the Zach Baggins movie, and talked about, it was still happening to him.
Which, by the way, he's a skeptic too.
Oh, the cop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a known skeptic.
But he has stuff happen.
I mean, he wants to believe too. Yeah. But anyways, go ahead.
So and that's all I got. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it just seems like it was weird. It's weird to me that even the police, like it's like they came to the house, because there were issues with the kids and not going to school and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they get swept into.
But they wanted to believe. That's why they played with the stuff there.
I mean, we live in a post-exorcist film.
Yeah, exactly.
World.
Yeah.
And so, and Father Martins talks about that frequently, is that, it's a pro and con. It's a great thing to expose it, but it's a con because now people are seeing demons behind every corner and every shadow, and that's not to say they're not there, but it's very difficult. I'm not ready to fault the family for trying to profit on the story.
No, I'm not either.
If it happened and they feel like it's, look, as someone who has dealt with demonic oppression in my own personal life, we're humans. I mean, there is a point where it's like, you injured me, you abused me, you hurt me. I want to get you back, or I want to get my, vengeance or vindication. Vengeance is the Lord's, but we often want it ourselves.
I mean, I feel that they gave me at least 3 to 4 to 6 now hours of entertainment. So I'm not faulting them. I'm glad that they
let's
gave me a
not
story.
write off Satan's and the demon's desire to be celebrated,
but also to make people doubt. Right? Somewhat. Yeah.
Multiple birds with the same stone.
Sure. It's kind of weird because I feel like the cop stuff feels more like ghost hunter-y as opposed to, demon-y. So
yeah, that's what they were trying to do.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I get the cop stuff.
So I'm gonna give it 0.
Yeah, I'll give it like a 4.
Okay.
It's not as much. Now, the actual exorcism.
Okay.
I'm just curious what you think about this. This is all I have. If you have more, Pat, please bring it in. He prayed. So he did do some of these tests, right? And decided that
you said this was sanctioned.
No,
or
this was not sanctioned.
No.
Which tells me that it didn't check all of the necessary boxes for the Catholic Church. And I don't know if you guys are aware. He didn't
even present it.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but throughout the entire United States, the check system goes through the Archdiocese of Chicago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow. Yep. So
maybe
the Catholic Archdiocese of Chicago is the intake form.
He had 24 hours. He didn't present it to them.
No, he didn't. He prayed over her. He made appeals to cast out demons.
By the way, Latoya. He prayed over her.
Yes.
He did an exorcist on the mother. He did some form on the children, but not really anything.
Yeah.
He did most of it on Latoya.
I think for some reason he felt maybe she was the person, but that's interesting.
No, that's a good point. Maybe he felt that there might be some psychological stuff happening.
Yeah.
Because that is part of the litmus test is this mental illness or is this real?
Right.
And admittedly, I'm sure a lot of priests will admit they don't believe a lot of them, but they believe it because it is mental, that they are willing to pray with the individual and try to get them to that place.
Feel better.
Yeah.
Okay. He named the demons tormenting her during the ritual, and she looked up their identities online.
Wait, how did he name them?
I don't know. So he would
called them by name.
Called them by name. He felt something.
So I'm going to tell you right now, that is a very important integral piece.
Right.
So we're missing a very important piece.
He claimed the names had power.
Like, did they tell him? I don't know.
Well, no, but that's the point. He has to know.
Yeah.
Like, if he knows their name, he had to have gotten it from somewhere.
Right. And that's not clear in what I read, but I don't know.
Now, I will say in Catholic exorcisms, it's usually never done alone.
Mm-hmm.
They usually have a team.
Sure.
They have holders. They have, prayer warriors or what have you. And there are people whose job it is, especially like in the people who are praying on the prayer team. If something comes to mind while in prayer, it is imperative that they inform the priest who is doing the exorcism immediately.
Sure. Because
sometimes the Holy Spirit will give information
like hints or something,
like hints.
Yeah.
And because there is a battle going on between angels and demons and things like that. And sometimes it comes in and does that. So it's not impossible for the priest to have been given the name, but unless it just doesn't make sense to me that the priest knew the name of the demons while praying over the mother, unless he was already communicating through to a possessed individual who was where the demon was speaking.
Sure.
Because then he could use, the power of Jesus' name to demand that name be given, because otherwise you don't know the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he used a crucifix on her forehead,
that's standard,
that if she was very painful, again, there's not a ton of details.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like, I don't know, Pat, if you read any more about what he claimed to do.
No, I don't know too much more, but
sounds like he doesn't know how to do an exorcism.
Yeah.
Which might be the case.
What I will say is, I don't think he had done, well, first of all, Bob from Bob After Dark did an interview, and I'd like to draw attention to that. And we will put a link to that in the show notes, because I think it's important, because I am not I am not going to give his perspective.
I was just going to say, and
Sure.
you can go and listen to him,
Yeah.
the Reverend himself.
Yeah.
talk
So-
about
So maybe in that episode he did explain certain
Sure,
things.
sure.
Probably. I'm sure
questions.
Bob would have asked him those things too. But what I'm going to say though is that he was paid to do this exorcism. It was not something that was,
He's not a real exorcist.
yeah. Well, it was not something that was sanctioned. His bishop did say okay to one, but the reason why he said it was okay is because the father signed a deal with somebody for publishing rights of this particular story.
This is getting real fishy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know about this.
And the bishop was in on that too. So that's what I've heard. I can't confirm nor deny those particular
that doesn't
things.
seem likely to me. I mean, just because like that they wouldn't. That's very against the Catholic Church.
He
I
was
mean,
paid for the
geez.
exorcism. No.
Well, and I'm again kind of
Did
going
he ask
with,
for payment, or were they just like a donation?
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
like-
That was what was agreed upon. That he was going to do the exorcism. That's just what was agreed.
So that is totally
yeah,
that's a no-no.
yeah.
Like we don't,
especially from a
it's-
poor family.
Well, just
too.
in general,
Yeah.
general.
yeah.
The process of exorcism, which again, if you're going to use the term exorcism, you're speaking Catholic.
Yeah.
And so they have a process,
Yeah.
and specifically you do not pay for an exorcism.
Again, I'd want to know a little bit more about that source for that particular
And-
piece. And does the Reverend claim that he was paid?
And at the end of the day, again, my criticism
Mm-hmm.
does not negate the fact that it may have very well been demon possession.
Mm-hmm.
My criticism is this sounds to me more like a botched exorcism by some. Look, the Bible is very clear.
Mhm.
We can all do it.
Sure.
But if you're a Catholic priest, there is a process. And if
Sure.
you're not following the process, then that tells me that it wasn't set up correctly.
Sure.
So I'm not saying it isn't real. I'm not saying that it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But-
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
okay,
They had to
that's-
move.
Well, now I know why.
Okay, well, it didn't work. No. Not that they had to move. Okay, so she did say that the Latoya did say that the exorcism didn't work, although painful. It did not work. But the demons left on their own. They just decided to leave them alone.
No, I doubt it.
And then
Again,
they
I
moved
think-
to Indianapolis.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's because they moved. So
But then
Yeah.
then there's questions about then that the demons are in the house still. Why aren't they lashing onto anybody else? Why didn't they? Except for Zach Baggins, because he had eye things going on.
Yeah, see, I hate to say it, but I am definitely leaning back down towards the skepticism side. It sounds to me, the more information I'm getting, the
Yeah.
more it seems to me like the stage is set for performance.
That's what.
And it's frustrating because all that does is muddy the awareness that things are real and that things need to be dealt with, and people are suffering, and poverty is a thing, and mental
Yeah.
health is a thing, and when people abuse that, and I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I'm saying if it comes out that is what happened, it would make sense.
Okay, well, I just want to wrap this up then. So, what would you give for your rating for this particular piece of evidence, Rebecca?
for the exorcism piece, I'm gonna give it a 7. I would believe that
Okay.
he might come in and pray.
7. Okay, Vox?
I don't doubt that he tried to perform an exorcism. It sounds to me like he really should have gone back to his bishop or had gotten, someone who knows what they were doing.
Sure.
It's funny because, with my research and my experience, in this instance, a Protestant way probably would have been better,
Sure,
just
sure.
to handle it. This was definitely in my opinion, what sounds like a botched Catholic exorcism.
Sure.
And that's unfortunate because the whole thing sounds pretty corrupt. It sounds like that family has what we in the business call a stronghold. where there are a lot of demons, and there could very well be something that is generational. There could be something that was beyond the mother, beyond the grandmother, beyond, ancestors. It could be a lot of things. And like you said, I mean, young kids, pubescent, it could be a lot of things where, things began then. And I think maybe this family story isn't over yet.
Well,
and we may not know for
out.
another 10, 20, 30 years before something else happens.
So and
if that happens, they should call me.
Yes.
What would you rate that evidence though on a 0 to 10?
I mean, I don't doubt
that it happened.
That happened.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll give that a 10 at this point.
Okay.
I have no doubt that priest performed a botched exorcism.
Okay. So then our overall rating of everything.
Putting it all together.
With the idea that this is talking about, is the demon house possession story real?
Yes.
Was there a possession? Do we prove that enough in this particular debate?
So 0 to 10.
You want to go first?
I mean, I was going to say, I'll give you a number, but I want to be able to explain myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're
also going to do wrap up. We'll kind of wrap up our arguments.
Okay. I'll just give a number. I'll give a number.
Yeah.
So the question is 0 to 10. Did the possession actually happen? The demon house possession actually happen?
Yes.
I'll give it a 7.
A 7. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go 0 on this one.
And I understand why.
Yeah. And I'm also giving it a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can just sum up mine.
Yeah.
By
We'll
saying,
just do some quick sum up.
Because, I mean, I think we've already done our closing arguments.
We really have. Yeah.
I mean, so.
Oh, I've got something to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you can. Yeah.
You go, I'll go, and then we'll let him go last.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to say, simply put, that this could all be things that could have happened in the realm of regular life. This all could have been regular life. And if it could be, then I have to assume that it was. That is science for me.
Your Occam's razor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I get that.
So, Rebecca?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like there's a lot of things that could kind of go in that real world way. And then there's things that can kind of go in the not real world way, or whatever you want to call it. And to me, there's just enough of the weirdness. You know what I mean? Like that. And there's just enough extra people that saw things that make it really weird to me. And I don't know if it's demons. I don't. So that is where that's where I'm at a 7 instead of a 10. You know what I mean? Like it could be more, again, it could be the 12-year-old and that's it. But I feel like that mom was doing something in that house, and she was letting herself bring in things, and the kids fed off of it.
Okay.
And maybe what the priest did helped her a little bit, but I don't know. And I don't know what's still going on. All
right. So the floor is yours.
So I said 7.
Yeah.
And
you meant it.
I hope so. I was thoughtful with my number.
Yeah.
You remember how low I was rating it earlier?
Yeah.
But that was because, the information was still coming. I would say the reason why I said 7 and not 10 is because I don't have enough evidence that I would require. If the family had approached me,
sure, okay,
I would be asking questions that I would want answers to. And unfortunately, the evidence that is available, which is sometimes the case where you don't have all the answers to the questions.
Especially when you're looking back at it.
Right. But because I have questions that I just simply don't have the answers for, I can't give it a 10.
Sure.
If a possession really took place, I would accept it, and I would say, but it was definitely a botched exorcism, and I think that family story is not over. I agree with you that, Rebecca, that I think maybe mom was a little off and maybe brought things into the house. And, that is definitely a typical starting point, demons attached to physical, tangible objects that people bring into their homes and things like that. That's why it's so imperative to really, pay attention to what you're doing and what your family's doing, your children are doing. And even I am not the greatest at that. I've found things and went, oh no, we got to have a talk about this one, and things like that.
But I mean, you have to do that and still give a certain amount of freedom too.
Of course. And so, and to agree with you, Pat, I understand why you're at 0 because there is a lot of human hypocrisy in this story. There's a lot of
perfectly reasonable.
I do not like the profitability of everybody involved. I mean, it's just the she's making money, the kids are going to make money, grandma's making money, the priest is making money, the bishop might be making money. To me, that again, it doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not saying no.
Well, the one person that didn't make money on this, as far as I am aware, is the cop. And he's the one that
the social worker.
The social worker.
And the social worker.
In fact, that social worker lost money.
Yeah,
yes.
She did. Yeah.
I would. Yeah, there's certain pieces of evidence that we just don't have.
Yeah.
And so I can't say yes, and I also can't say no.
But I mean, we can all agree that Zach Baggins is a douche.
We can agree on that.
I do not know Zach Baggins.
I know. I do not know him personally. I've heard.
But if he wants to come on Ghostly
I've heard
and
his
talk
museum
about
is pretty awesome.
I will say that when in doubt of, fear and trembling and evil and whatnot, I don't know if it's a demon or a spirit or a ghost. It's a demon. It's always a demon.
Yeah.
If it's not a demon, it's an angel.
Sure.
There you go.
All right. So that brings us to the end of the show. I want to thank everyone so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as word of mouth is our best advertisement. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And we are taking the month of December off, so we will be back in January. I would like to give a shout out to our VIP producers. We have Andrew,
Alicia,
Becky,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Jessica,
Alice,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy.
And Vox, what do you got going on in your world? I know you got a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, how soon is this episode going to go out?
It's going to go out not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday.
All right. So I'm actually filming a comedy special.
Wow.
Probably for Amazon Prime.
Oh,
nice.
With Zach Baggins.
With Zach Baggins. That's not true. Just don't want to get sued. November 29th in Lisle, Illinois.
Okay.
You could get tickets to that if you want to come out. DavidVoxMullen.com.
What's the name of the venue?
Base Camp.
Base Camp.
Yeah, it's in the Four Lakes community. If you're familiar with the Chicagoland area and the suburbs, it's like the ski resort and all that. It's a great venue, a huge stage, and we're going to bring the camera crew out and we're going to shoot it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's comedy. It's comedy. It's fun stuff. Don't go to my website if you need an exorcist. That is my commercial.
You have a different site for
that is my commercial comedy stuff. Honestly, if you have spiritual questions or needs or concerns, or you want to talk, I'm always willing to listen. I get a bunch of email, and that's through the other podcast. You could email me at eph612pod@gmail.com.
Which I swore was about me. I was like, Pat Harrington. 6/12 is my birthday, June 12th. I was like,
Harrington
Vox.
Right. Yeah, no, EPH 612, it's based off of Ephesians 6:12. But it was a podcast. So EPH 612 pod.
It is really good. It's really interesting.
I've been promising a second season for years and I've never done it. I have to figure out how I want to go, but I'll do it.
How would you describe your comedy?
It's highbrow, smart, semi-political,
but it's not
ridiculous.
Political to one side though. It's
I go after everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
He's really good at stand-up.
No, I go after
impressions.
Everybody. I do a lot of impressions. Yeah. I'm gonna make a lot of money again, Pat. So much money, probably more money.
And you bring in a little bit of improv. You have that improv background.
I do a little bit of crowd work, and there might be a little musical improv that shows up in the show.
Awesome, and you do have merch too. I have to say, because you are wearing. I am
wearing my official.
And you
Vox
have your
so
shirt.
cool.
Yeah,
you have your Stanley Cup here. So
I do. Not for hockey, but I have a Vox logo that I developed years ago when I was in a rock band, and I never I just kind of put it away and stopped using it. And then I was trying to come up with merch for this comedy business. And somebody goes, hey, didn't you have that logo? And I was like, oh my gosh, I own that. It's a trademark.
Like, I already have that. Yeah.
So you trademarked it and everything?
Yeah,
nice.
Oh my God. Wow. So do you have anything else you want to talk about?
That's the big one.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Like.
I'm freaking out about my comedy special, but no, I mean, honestly, I mean, just for your listeners, I really think just letting them know about EPH 612 is a big deal, because that's the most connectivity to Ghostly, and go listen to that. And then, like I said, if you've got questions, I've had people who have heard me on your show reach out to me before, which is nice. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll talk to anybody about anything, and if you're BSing me, I'll know it too. It's fine. But
he's got spidey senses.
But if you legitimately if you have concerns, if you feel like your house might be haunted, or if you're having someone in your family who is struggling, you think they might be oppressed or, God forbid, possessed or what have you, I'm not
I got some cats.
I'm not going to come to, Nebraska, but like, if you have concerns, first of all, exorcism is something that, if it's done the right way through the Catholic faith, isn't a one and done thing. It's usually a multiple event, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
I had something, I'm not really going to get into it now because there's like no time, but I had something that literally took me 40 years to figure out.
Wow.
And so like, that's, sometimes things are like that. So is as scary as if you're dealing with something and you think your house is haunted, or you're thinking you're being oppressed or attacked or what have you. I know it seems scary, but everything happens slowly.
Yeah. But also see a doctor, see a therapist, see all the people that you can see.
And a proper exorcist is going to encourage you to do all of those things.
Oh yeah, if you're reaching out to me and I ask questions and I hear things that immediately trigger, like, well, yeah, you should probably talk to a doctor about that. Yeah. No, to me, the process of exorcism has become more of a therapy in a weird way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, that's just I'm very good at recognizing my own limitations. Mm-hmm. So, if you come to me with something that I realize, that's not right, I would absolutely advise you to go a certain way.
Sure.
And you don't have to take my advice. You do what you want, but I've gone through it, and I know what works and what tends not to work.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Vox.
Thanks for having me. I love, getting to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
And talk about this stuff.
And you brought some really good points and stuff too. So I really appreciate that.
You know what? This was a long episode. If you are still listening, thank you.
Yeah.
If you're not listening,
we wanted to
go out with a bang.
Go out with a big one.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to see you for a month here. So hopefully this keeps your Christmas warm.
And if not, go join Ghostly Society and come hang out with us.
Absolutely. And go listen. If you join Patreon, we've got a whole bunch of episodes on Ghostly X.
Yeah.
Interviews with all of our frequent guests.
Vox is one of
them. We've got, and all the people you listen to in October, have episodes, and we, all sorts of other fun stuff. So, if you're looking for more Ghostly, there's plenty out there to be had.
But until then, stay ghostly.
Bye.